Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele. I know, coming to you late at night. Well, not too late at night. It's 7 p.m. here in Los Angeles, but there was a little show that dropped on Wednesday, and I wanted to make sure we got our third episode out to you. So, decided to bring back our good friend Sam. How we doing, Sam?
How's it going, sir? Good.
Good, good. So we both got a chance to watch the third episode of The Mandalorian, and there
Absolutely.
will be spoilers. So if you guys haven't seen it, go watch it. Come back, watch this. Just giving you a heads up right off the top. Yeah. So now I think you told me, Sam, that you actually stay up and you watch when it drops.
Oh, every time that episode comes out, I'm always up. So what I'll do is like I get home from work around 5 and have dinner, and then I'll do a little power nap, and then right up until 11:50 or whatever, and then you know just get some snacks together, and I'm good to go. So
Nice,
every night,
nice.
because otherwise, like I'm a little obsessed with my phone, to be honest with you. So,
Yeah, well,
but
I think everybody is.
but it's like by the time you wake up on the next day at 7 a.m., it's like there's already things online, and it's just hard to avoid, because I follow every pop culture
Hmm.
outlet out there, so it's hard to avoid spoilers sometimes. So I try to just get on it, um,
Yeah.
but it's great.
No, and that's actually one good thing about The Last of Us that just concluded last week is
Yeah,
like it dropped at 6 p.m. I got to be honest with you. We both played the game. We both love the game. And so
yeah,
I'm like one of those people who's right at my computer. And of course, we did the spoiler cast for you guys and just 5:59, 6 o'clock, you know, and I made a bet with one of my co-hosts or one of my friends. I said, I guarantee you it's going to crash. Oh, no, 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 it won't crash. I said, mark my words, it will crash. And so, it worked. And then
yeah.
24 hours later, the HBO Max comes out and says, oh, yeah, by the way, our servers went down. I said, told ya. But,
Yeah,
anyways,
I like
yeah.
I do like the HBO time of sorry, I'm just lowering my brightness here. I do like the HBO Max, release of like let's put things up at 8, on a Sunday. It's just like it is kind of nuts that Disney Plus hasn't done that. Very interestingly enough, I think these actually used to premiere on Fridays if I'm not mistaken, but
Yeah.
they've
Well,
shifted schedules so many
the thing
times
is,
but
like, what was shocking to me, and look, for the Super Bowl, I could understand. And that, by the way, that when that got the Friday, okay, that was 10.2 million, and that was on a Friday.
right.
And I said to myself, okay, now for the Critics' Choice, and then the Grammys came, and they actually ate into the Grammys a little bit for the
Yeah.
ratings.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, they've got to move it for the Oscars. They have to move it for the
Yeah.
Oscars. And they didn't. And they
Yeah.
ended up getting an 8.2. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Now, anybody who's not familiar with the Nelson ratings, it's one of those things where every point or quarter, every 1.0 is like a quarter million people, or almost. I think it's like 100 or 200,000.
Hmm.
So you can magnify that out to 8.2. You've got millions, 8.2 million people watching. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Wow.
Anyways, yeah, The Mandalorian it's one of those things where I thought that they would drop it on a Wednesday. I thought they'd move it, but I mean
It's
they've got so much
interesting. Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, overall thoughts. We both watched episode 3. Overall thoughts. What did you think of it?
I think it's a good episode. I think it's a pretty solid story. I mean, we started off with, I thought it's kind of broken up into 3 parts, really, or 3 quick parts, I suppose. But the beginning is very Mando and Bo-Katan esque. We're focusing on them and they're escaping the planet. And it's very, very awesome. It's a powerful scene right off the bat. I mean, a series of sequences of the TIE fighters or the TIE interceptors and the space battle to get out of there. So it opens very, very, very strong. And then for the primarily most of the episode, we're actually back on a different planet that we've seen in other movies, and we're focusing on a different character that we've been introduced to in a few seasons and stuff. So it's cool. It's a different kind of episode than I've seen on the Mandalorian. It felt very much like Andor. It was their attempt to do Andor a little bit, but it was a pretty solid episode, and I'm really kind of, chomping at the bit to see what happens next. But yeah, it ended very strongly too. So I thought it was a very good opening and very good ending. But I thought the middle of it, I think we spent too much time away from our central characters a little bit. But that would be my only complaint.
Yeah. So it reminded me of Bill's or Long Long Time for Last of Us. So that was the first thing that reminded me
Sure,
of because when we see Joel and Ellie, they're getting right to Billstown, and then we go
yeah,
right into Billstown, and the whole episode is about Billstown,
for
and
sure,
then in the last, I don't know, 5 to 7 minutes, we go back to Joel and Ellie, and that's exactly
definitely.
what this reminded me of.
Yeah.
Um, so I did like the fact that it was straight continuation. Like
Yes.
immediately after it went, I mean, last frame, we're right back with them in that cave. Um,
Yep.
that was a big thing as far as continuation. So a
Sure.
couple of notes that I took.
Sure.
Bo-Katan knows, not knows of the beast, but one of the things, we're going to get a whole different storyline. And you had said this last week that, but it's one of those things that when she asks him, do you did you see anything living down there? Did you see any monsters down there? Was there anything living? He's like, no, I was just trying to, get out of there alive.
Yep.
Oh, what?
Exactly.
Why? Why? What's going on? Oh, nothing.
Yep.
So immediately she's hiding something from him. I went,
Yep. Definitely.
okay. Um, what you were talking about, the TIE fighters. This has everything that you want in a Star Wars episode. It
For
has
sure.
the danger, it has the star battles,
Yep.
you're getting
Yep.
character building. This is so
Yeah,
far
it
the
opened
three.
very,
Yeah,
yeah, very, very Star Warsy. It was great. Yeah,
yeah,
she definitely chose to not reveal what she knows, and I think
yeah.
that's very interesting. And
So once we go on what was the planet's name? Remind me.
oh geez, we go to Coruscant
Okay.
for the majority of the episode, which has been prominently, I apologize, featured in the prequels and the Clone Wars, and um, it's sort of that centralized part of the galaxy that the Empire's hub is based out of. The Jedi Temple was there, so it's a very, very important planet in the Star Wars universe for sure.
Nice. So one of the first shots we see is, and we don't see who it is, but it's just more of a buttoning of the uniform and walking in, and then we see who sits down, and I'm like, okay. And at that point, there was a speech going on by the doctor,
Yeah, and this
and
is actually a
so
little Star Wars Easter egg. It's like that's the same amphitheater that I believe the Emperor and Anakin were talking to each other in Episode 3.
mhm,
Very,
yeah,
so I think it's the same Coruscant Opera House. But
yeah.
yes,
So and he's speaking about his research and how um what he was doing and everything else. And so after the uh after the speech, you had everybody coming up to him,
yeah,
congratulations, because he had just got there. And so it was one of those things where um yeah, he was still
I
trying to
love
get acclimated.
I love how his costume is like not an Imperial officer, but it's like an Imperial officer. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. But that was interesting in itself. And so he was trying to get acclimated, and he hadn't visited any of the sites. And so the basically said, look, if you want to, you know um if you want to go sightseeing, I can help you with that. And I'm like, okay. um but yeah, it was, so I found it interesting too as we get to the amnesty house, and that's what it was called. That so this is our the character you're talking about, but it's one of those things where no, they were all referred to by letters and names or letters and numbers. Did you
yeah,
notice that?
that yeah,
And I went,
they all have those it's a sort of like the same, like the stormtroopers are like,
yeah,
TK4, all that stuff. So it's
yeah,
very, yeah, exactly. It's not the Empire, but it's like the Empire. It's still keeping that, I think it's like that theme of like the rebels took down the empire and now they're trying to rebuild their own sort of government, but it's like it's kind of mirroring the empire a little bit in some ways. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like just a repeat of history in that in the Star Wars. It's like they're
Yeah.
becoming, a little bit more like the empire with what they're trying to do. But
Well,
yeah,
it brings up an interesting question because, and so, he wanted to continue his research, and we see him a couple of times, and that was a couple. That's one thing I wrote down was the motif, a couple of motifs in it. Okay, is he was with the robot, and he was answering
right.
these questions,
Yep.
and so you could see him change, like his appearance, and he even asked the bot a question, the droid a question. If I were to continue my research, even though I'm trying to help people,
Right.
um, would that be okay? And they're like, no, you can't do that.
Yep.
So that makes him think, like, am I really doing the right thing?
Yep. Yep. He's definitely trying to find some justification for
And
continuing.
so, but it brings up the interesting question of cloning
Right.
and what, and this even applies today because we are in such a society that we can do things almost like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can cross engineer things and everything else, but it's one of those things where what is ethical? Like,
Right.
can we clone organs for it? So let's say somebody has liver cancer. Can we clone a liver to and then operate on them to actually have
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
a full functioning liver?
Sure.
And but
It's sort of like the stem cell like research in that
exactly.
exactly. You know what I mean? It's like the Star Wars equivalent to that, which is very interesting. It's funny that you bring up cloning too, because it may, and in my notes here, I wrote down that like it may actually we'll see tie into the sequel trilogy in some way, shape, or
Hmm.
form, because this does take place after Return of the Jedi. I'm wondering if the idea or the motivation for not just this scientist but Moff Gideon, I wonder if these are the early seeds of what is the First Order or what will be the First Order, or it's I think and how that pertains to the Emperor and that cloning process and in episode 9. So maybe this is sort of a gap to bridge the show. It brings us a sort of a bridge to gap between these two trilogies in that way. So maybe cloning will become a much more prominent, and I'm sure it ties in. Obviously, we know that they want Grogu, so it will very interesting on how cloning will play in the show. I'm very very fascinated by it.
And so, no, absolutely. And so she basically says to him, well, how important is it to you? Like, it's one of those things where if you really are that, if you really want to continue your research, I can get you the stuff.
Yep.
And it's so so she's sitting watching it, and so he questions himself. And so what ends up happening is, he's in his room one night, and there's knock the door, and there's biscuits because they during the scene they were talking about what they really liked,
Right.
and there were
Right.
the
Right.
biscuits. And so what ends up happening is he takes the biscuits in and everything else, and then so later on he walks over and says, and she basically says, like I said, how important is your research to you? I can get this if you really really want to do it. And he finally comes to the decision that, okay, I want to do this. So of course he was nervous about it, but she's like, just relax.
Yep.
So this is one of the scenes in which they're really starting to talk about their times and everything else, and this is where she convinces him to go do it.
Yes.
Essentially, plants the seed, and so once that's done, and I wrote down here, going to get the mobile lab. The chase is on once because they know that somebody else is there, but it's one of those things. So when they're on the train and they're going from car to car to car, and there's nobody, I mean, it's the last car there. So they eventually jump.
Right.
And one of the things I wrote down was a great shot of the Imperial ship. Like, so they come down and you just see the
Yeah.
ship.
Yeah. Yep.
I went,
I actually have that pulled up right here.
whoa, that's really cool.
Sure.
And so the other thing too is once they get into the ship and they're making their way, she says, um, I'm sorry I never introduced myself. I've seen you plenty of times, you know." And he's like, "That's okay. No big deal." And just the way it was done, she said, she's holding the flashlight up. She's like, "Hi, I'm, so and so." And they introduce themselves. I thought that was great
Yeah.
with, the light.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but yeah, it was one of those things. And on top of all that, we find out, and here's the twist. Um, she played him.
Yeah. Yep. Big time.
She played him
Yep.
like a fiddle.
Yep. Yes,
And
sir.
so she knew exactly what she was doing. And what ended up happening was, I mean, it's one of those things where she felt no remorse. And it it kind of reminded me of the Running Man a little, where they say, well, he went off for re-education, and so they put him in this device,
Mm.
and so you had one of the people say, you're a great asset to what they're doing, what you're doing. We need more people around you. And she's like, well, do you mind if I stay? And of course, it's trying to get into the
Yep.
brainwaves. So this shot, so she
Oh, right.
basically
Yep.
just without even in that the coldness of it, without even like looking, she just turns the dial up
Yeah, definitely.
and she kills the doctor. And I'm
That's
like,
right.
okay. So, and then we end up going back to Mando
Yep.
and Bo-Katan at the end, and so they get there, and so they're redeemed now,
Yep.
and
Yeah,
it's
both of
it's
them.
interesting, yeah. So it's
And
going to
she
be interesting to see where that goes. I like the fact that we had at least two other storylines open up for us. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
where does she go? What I mean is, how evil is she going to get, and what is she going to do at this point?
Yeah, what is her actual motivations?
Exactly,
Who
and
who does she work for? Is she doing this truly for the Republic, or is she doing this for other reasons to shut him
yeah,
up? I don't know. We'll see.
and the other thing too is we have the whole Bo-Katan
Right.
storyline. So it's like one of those things where we'll see this as we go forward
Yeah.
with this creature, and because she's going to want the dark saber,
Oh yeah.
she's probably
Yep.
going to use this animal, this monster, to try and beat Mando. Probably there's a lot
Yeah,
of
she's
different
got a
moving
lot of things
parts.
yeah, a lot of moving parts, and it's chess pieces at this point. She's figuring it out, and yeah, now she's a part of the Night Owl group. Or sorry, I apologize. Not the Watch is what they're called.
Yeah,
Their little cult, not the she's
yeah,
from the Night Owls. But yeah, very very interesting. She wants to control, she wants to lead.
yeah. I don't. So where do you think we're going from here, Sam? I mean, I know we just broke down, like quickly
Yeah.
broke it down. Where do you think we're going from here?
I think that we are still, while we're progressing the story with Mando, I still think that we need a lot more of focus on Grogu. And I think that from the trailers that they dropped before the season came out, we see, scenes like a flashback to the Jedi Temple, things like that. So I'm very curious, and I'm wondering how the Jedi aspect of Star Wars plays in, specifically with Grogu. What will we learn more about him? Why is he? I don't know if there's I don't think we talked about this yet, but at some point I think um Mando says this is the way. Bo-Katan replies this is the way, and I think they cut to Grogu, and he kind of like mumbles or
Hmm.
gurgles, whatever. He's like, this is the way, or something, an attempt to. And
Yeah,
so he's definitely embracing being a Mandalorian with him, and I'm wondering how Grogu plays a part in all of this in the future. But yeah, I it sounds like it's gonna be a little bit of a challenge to the throne type of thing. We'll see.
yeah, yeah. I think that it's one of those things where I'm glad. I thought of the three, I thought this was the best episode so far.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I
I
agree. I
mean,
think that this is the weakest season so far, to be honest with you. I will say, like, from the first 3 episodes I've seen, comparatively to two, I think this is it's so far a slow burn. We'll see how it pays off, but I think that season 1 and 2 both opened with their first 3 episodes very powerful. We know what the story is. We know where we're going, and I think that we're still kind of tiptoeing around what the end goal is here. What now that he's redeemed, what do we do? You know what I mean? So I'm fascinated to see what progresses.
I'll be honest. When I saw this trailer, I mean, because they kind of told you that was what the A. So I had broken down into three storylines. The A storyline being him being redeemed.
Right.
Now, this is not knowing any of the episodes yet. Him
Sure.
being redeemed. The B storyline is your dark saber match
Yep.
between Mando, and the C is Grogu. That's what I thought. I have, and I know I asked you this, but do you have a problem with having it be in one or two episodes that, okay, he needs to be redeemed, he goes to get redeemed, and they wrap it up with in one episode? Or would you like to see this start to progress?
I think that I guess we have to see how the payoff is. I mean, again, I think I'm a little sort of underwhelmed with the overall arc so far. I think that all right, he's now Mando, he's now a Mandalorian again. Bo-Katan, we still know that Bo-Katan isn't cool with him hanging out with the dark saber. So I still feel like we're not treading extremely new waters, but I'm hoping next few episodes really pick up what the end goal of this will be. What is going to be our overall plot? Because right now, I think if you were to describe like season 3 of Mandalorian, I think it'd be kind of hard.
No,
So
yeah, absolutely. Because
yeah,
there's really, I thought, I mean, I thought you could have had a whole season where the whole A storyline could have getting him being redeemed.
100%. I think that
And
there was yeah. Who knows?
that would have been, you know, fabulous. And then you could have mixed in the, I mean, look, it works.
Right.
But I think the payoff, because that is the biggest thing that a Mandalorian is never supposed to do. They can do everything else, but they can't remove their helmet. And to
Right.
have it be,
Exactly.
okay, you need to go here. He goes here, fine, he gets redeemed, but it just the payoff was too quick.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, and again, it's like well, I mean, unless this, you know, it's almost like if I can compare it to almost like the Avengers or the Marvel movies, right? We have our A plot, which is generally, uh the plot of the movie we're focused on, right? So we have, for example, Iron Man, and
Hmm.
then we have the Thanos, which is an overarching threat, which
Right.
is looming over everything, but it's not the focus. I'm not sure what the overarching plot or threat is. I know that just because you know I read and I watch things, Giancarlo Esposito is supposed to come back as Moff Gideon, um, and the Empire is supposed to play a role still. But again, it's just I think it just needed to
It
pick it
just
up.
needs to pick up. That's all.
It's it.
It
It's
just
just a
need
slow start. So
it just
eh,
needs to pick up because the thing is that right now, and we were discussing this earlier, it has everything you want in Star Wars. It
right,
has the air, but it has that battle, that 8-minute battle. It has the deception to it. It has the Imperial thing. It
right,
has the suspense. It has all of those things. That was a good quality. And what you were talking about the runtime, it's very interesting because there's no set. I mean, throw the last 5 minutes out for credits. That was about a 45-minute episode. That's
right.
a good quality runtime.
It's a nice,
And
healthy episode.
I mean, not too not too short, but then again, it's not going to drag on and on and on.
Right, right.
Um, I'm
I mean,
more
unless
curious.
it's good. If it's good, and
Yeah,
then
no, absolutely.
sometimes it's like Last of Us. I'm like, oh crap, it's been an hour.
Yeah,
Because you're just so invested in it, and it's just like I gotta admit, like in the beginning of the show, I told you that I stay up each episode, and it's just each one that comes out, I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna. Maybe I'll wait. It's
Yeah.
just because it's like, oh man, I hope it picks up.
And that's the thing too, what I'm seeing on Twitter too, and
Yeah,
maybe on other outlets is it's people are not like they're not chomping at the bit at this season. It's
I
like,
wonder if it has a
okay,
lot
I'll
to
wait
do. Yeah,
24 hours because or even 48 hours. They'll stay away from this because it
it's almost
doesn't.
like it's a very. I wonder if it had anything to do with The Last of Us being out. Like if Disney banked on, hey, let's throw this out there while that show's on the run because Pedro's going to blow up. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
if he blew up, then people obviously watch more
yeah,
people would watch Mandalorian, but it's funny enough, the ratings are not as I don't think the viewership is as high for some reason. Or I don't think that
yeah,
obviously the ratings aren't as high, but
yeah.
I think I read something that the viewers aren't as high either. Like it's just not performing as well as they thought. And I'm wondering if it's just because it's like The Last of Us was such a good show with him. And then you go to Mando and it's a bit like,
No, and this is what I
you
said
know.
to you in a
Yeah.
DM today. I said it's two totally different
It's
things.
totally different thing. I mean, and he's not even his face isn't even shown, and it's a
No,
completely different
yeah,
animal. So
but and I'll say this about every single television, every single streaming show. There's never a perfect season. I mean, what I
no,
mean
for
by that
sure.
is there is always one season in any show you talk about, whether
Yeah.
it's Friends or Game of Thrones or ER, Hill Street Blues, NYPD. Pick whatever show you want. There's
Yeah.
always some season that is not the best.
It, I
That
I
that is
just hope
it's a throwaway season.
right.
And
I think John Favreau wrote it, and so that's the only thing that makes me worried is like I think he's been writing a lot of these episodes.
well, he already has episode. He's already got the whole fourth season written.
Got it. Got it.
He
Got it.
already
So
has
he's been.
his.
Does he write every episode?
I don't know if it's every episode, but it's quite a few. So I did a piece, covered it a couple weeks ago. He actually during post of the third season,
Yeah.
he actually was within the interview, and they were talking about how during the post, Dave Filoni and himself had been writing the fourth episode, and it's
Got it.
already in the can. So they already because
Wow.
they said that the person had asked them, "Do you see Mandalorian, stopping?" And they said, "No, we have plenty of stories to tell." So, I
Yeah. It
mean,
says he
they've
wrote
already got
20 out
this
of
thing.
24.
Yeah.
So
So,
he's
and I
heavily
think that
involved.
that's a huge, plus.
Yeah.
But I think it'll pick up. I do think it'll pick up. But at the end of the day, I do believe that this is going to be, like I said, that throwaway episode. Like everybody that I know that I talk to that likes Game of Thrones, say the eighth season, worst season.
Yeah.
The majority of
Yeah.
people,
Right.
that's their throwaway. And unfortunately, what that did was, and this is why I think House of the Dragon blew up, was because one of the reasons why is because when everybody says Game of Thrones, they think, oh my God, Game of Thrones, it's going to be amazing. They have that expectation. And when you don't get that, especially throughout a whole season, you go, this is what you're going to
Right.
end on?
Yep.
Really?
Exactly.
So and I think that's this.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be good, but I guarantee you for the people that rate this after, this will probably be the third one.
Definitely.
And I
Yeah.
think that the first season will probably be the first just because we get to see Grogu for the first
Sure.
time and we get to
No, for
see
sure.
Mando and we get to see all these things. And it's just a continuation of the story.
Yep.
And, on the movie side of it, I mean, look, this is why that Shazam. I mean, if you want to go to the movie side of it for a minute, I did a whole piece about it today. Shazam's gonna be lucky to make $30 million, and
Yeah.
it made $3.4 million in Thursday night previews. That's it. The original Shazam when it opened made $55 million.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
one of those, and this costs $25 million more. The reason I bring it up is this: it's the continuation of the story. It's harder to make a sequel, but B, more importantly, continue the storyline with the characters because we all know who Mando is.
Right.
We
No,
all know
exactly.
we want to see the continuation of all this stuff.
Yep.
But when you have to do it like that, it's like, and that's when expectations start to creep in. And it's
Right.
like, okay, as I said, you're never going to have that great thing. I don't know. I'm really curious to see.
Yeah, me
We got
too.
a couple of good storylines going on. I think this is. I mean, while the season finale is obviously a few weeks away, I think your pinnacle is probably going to be right around 6 or 7.
Yeah, yeah, definitely at a midway point, it really needs to have a big
Yeah.
episode
By
to keep
by the
people
midway
watching.
point, we know
Yeah,
everything.
for
The
sure.
viewer knows everything.
Yep,
So 6 and 7, okay, is going to be the okay. Here's where all the stuff happens,
picks up. Yeah,
and
definitely.
then 8, is okay. Slowly starting to slow. If you're going to put it in movie terms, eight's going to be the resolution. 8 and 9 are going to be the resolution, and then 9, of course, will have our storylines for next year. But
Yep.
it's one of
Yeah,
those
definitely.
things where it'll be good. I think that, and I think that people are really, once they get to a point too, it's like Marvel. Once they get to a point when they say, okay, what's the next Marvel movie coming out? They're going to show up, regardless if it's good or bad. And that's why
It's
you
like
always see Marvel movies now. And I'd love to know the first one that didn't. I mean, it probably goes back, a couple years, not make $100 million.
that's like the DC. That's like a common joke online is like Marvel fans will show up to their movies, but like DC fans are all just like on the internet. They're just like so loud, but
Yeah,
in the box office they don't show up because
yeah.
it's like Shazam. Exactly right,
And
and
that's why,
it's a
and
dud.
I said it today. I really truly believe that this lackluster performance by Shazam is going to be a precursor for the Flash.
I really hope not. I
No, and
really
I hope not either.
like.
But I
Oh
really,
man,
because here's the problem.
yeah,
That's the next film that's coming out. It's going to be at CinemaCon. We know that. It's going to be premiered there. But here's the problem that A, it's a DC film. It's a next
right.
DC film. And B, if they're not showing up for this, and this was a $125 million movie, and we've had so much anticipation for the Flash, are they really going to come out? And don't forget too, that's right in the middle.
Yeah,
You've got Cross the Spider Verse coming out in the second. You've got Transformers coming out on the 9th, and then you have Indiana Jones coming out on the 30th.
yeah, it's a
That's
lot.
sandwiched right in between.
Right.
So opening weekend, it's going to be very tough. I'll be honest. I'll be shocked if it makes $100 million.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, I have no inside information on that, but I would be shocked if it's $100 million weekend because people loved into this Across the Spider Verse.
Yes.
Loved it.
Yeah,
People that I talk to say that's one of their top 2 or 3 Spider-Man movies, next to No Way Home and the original '02 Spider-Man.
definitely. Yeah.
Transformers, this is a whole new Transformers. I mean, they hadn't come out with it. I mean, the last night came out a couple years ago. It didn't do that well. They're trying to reboot the franchise. Bumblebee did extremely well.
Yep. And I
So
think
it's
this is a
like,
sequel to
okay,
Bumblebee. I think.
yeah. So they're gonna, try and get back in theaters. So
Cool.
and and then in Indiana Jones, like this is the last Indiana Jones. This is the last time we're gonna see Harrison Ford. I think it's gonna struggle, but
We'll see.
nonetheless,
Yeah. There's
yeah.
already its production problems.
Oh yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Well, when you spend $250 million in a movie, and I mean, I'm not a aficionado, but I do know this: you 2.5 to 3 times just get your money back, just to break even. So that movie's got to make at least
Ugh.
$750 million just to break even.
Yeah, I think it's over 300 million now, their budget.
And
It's
if
nuts.
I mean, we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones is $297 million. That's going to make $1 billion just to break even.
Right. Oh jeez. Yeah.
Fast and the Furious, and that's believe it or not, Sam, that's not even the highest budget of the summer. Next month or a couple months, we got Fast 10 coming out.
That's right. Oh
Three
Jesus.
hundred and fifty million
Oh wow.
dollars.
Yeah. That's the most expensive movie ever made, right?
Yeah,
Has to be.
yeah. So that's going to
What is
make it
that?
almost $1.5
All
billion just to break even. Good luck.
wow. Oh yeah,
Anyways,
350 million.
yeah.
Holy crap.
So it's
Huh.
crazy. Anyways, guys,
Yeah.
yeah, that's Mandalorian
Mandalorian.
season, the episode 3. We'll be back here next week with all the good stuff. Uh, like I said, guys, I'm going to be having a big interview tomorrow, and we're going to talk about some things that are necessary to talk about. There, we were talking about all these great movies that you see, but there are a lot of people that work on these things, and they work long hours, and we want to make sure they're all safe. And Kristen Gomez actually exposed some of the stuff, and she talked to a lot of people, and we're going to get her on and discuss all that. So I'm looking forward to the next week. I know he is too. But all right, guys, we'll talk later. Take care of yourself. Do the 3 things you need to do. Be safe, be careful, and have a great day tomorrow. I'm David. He's Sam, and this has been Real Talks.